welcome back to another card evaluation. I've got a different game this time. It's One Piece. One Piece mentioned. And I'm joined today by Darren.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
You're going to guide me through some One Piece rating. First of all, tell us who you are.
Yeah, sure. My name's Darren Stevenson. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time. Almost too long, I think. Like, I've been playing like for 10 years. Started competitively in like 2014. I think I did well for myself. Got like a few YCS tops. Like I've attended the World Championships, and it's been like really, really fun. Dabbled in like a different card game now, hence why we're here talking about One Piece, which is a new fun experience right now.
And I've got a zero background knowledge on One Piece, and honestly Bandai games in general, because I think they work very similarly. So you're gonna show me some cards, and I have to use my transferable knowledge of all of my infinite card game knowledge to decipher if it's a good card or a bad card. Yes, I just know that the basic way that it's laid out is you have a leader, and I think when the leader is like killed or whatever, you lose the game. And they have like
kinda.
5 total points or something, or basically
You're on the right lines, yeah. It's quite similar to like Hearthstone in that respect, that you have like a leader, and you have to attack the leader to win the game. Life can differ depending on each leader as well.
okay, so it's dependent on the leader. And then you have your mana, which is called Dawn, which is just mana. Or the cool thing is that unlike Magic or other games that just have this like kind of blank card of a land or something, or don't get mad at me, Magic players, you can use it as stats. You can drop it as like an honest.
Yeah, so like what's cool about One Piece is like the additional decision trees, where like if you found in Hearthstone that you had a spare mana, you can literally do nothing with it. But whereas with this, like a Don can buff a character or a leader by 1,000 power. So it means that like rather than just like having a turn where like imagine if you're on like free Don and you can't play a single card, that you can just buff your leader by 3k and just swing it face for 8k.
All right, well, let's see card number 1.
Sure, here we go. I think this will be a good one to start off with, as it's how Monkey D. Luffy started his journey.
All right, so this is Shanks. All right, I know Shanks. Is that I'm trying to not have any spoilers. Is it his dad, or is his like? Do we know? Early on in the series.
Nah, he's like
right, we'll leave that aside, I guess.
Yeah, he's just a pirate that he met in his hometown.
Oh,
and basically became like his hero. Basically, I think an inspiration to Luffy for him to become a pirate.
The number 9, is that just the mana cost, I guess?
Yeah, that's the number of Dawn you have to spend to summon Shanks. Yeah.
Okay,
he's a big boy.
10,000. Is that his attack?
Yeah, to put in perspective how big that attack is. So leaders are 5k. So 10k is considered big.
So this could essentially one-shot a leader.
So like leaders have life, but yeah. So if you swing like 10k at a leader, it would be difficult to counter out of that. So the chances are you would be taking a life from an attack from this character.
So it's 10,000. It's got Rush. I guess I understand how Rush works. And when attacking, your opponent cannot activate a blocker character that has 2k or less power during this battle. They cannot activate a blocker that has 2k or less power. So like, the battle phase in One Piece, is it kind of like Magic, where you just declare an attack and then your opponent chooses to block with stuff? This
game's quite like similar to Hearthstone, where you don't have a battle phase. You can just like attack whenever you want.
So you don't just declare an attack in One Piece. You have to choose what you're attacking.
Yeah, you could just attack and then just do other stuff. So like you don't have to, like with Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't have like a main phase and then a battle phase. You can just swing at the start of your turn if you want, and then start using your Dawn afterwards for like to establish characters on field or to use events and stuff like that.
All right, so this is a tough one because effect-wise and stuff, I think Rush, I assume, is not very common. But when it is available, it's like really strong, I want to say. Now, the reason that I think this might actually be a bait and a kind of not a good card is that it's a 9 cost. Like, that's very big, right?
It is a lot, yeah. It's like, there's boss monsters, of course, that like can be crazy tempo. So I guess it's up to you if you think that like in a red deck that this would be played in, if that would be like a good boss monster to play.
Okay, I assume red is just aggro.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Some of the colors are quite obvious as to what they are. Red, of course, is like tailored towards the more aggressive strategy.
All right, so I think my final answer is I'm gonna actually say that it's bad. I think it's just too high of a mana cost for this to really be a red style aggro deck. Like it's the effect and stuff and the stats is huge and it's big and it's really powerful because it has rush. But I mean, I just think 9 in an aggro deck, that has to be too much.
And that's your final answer? You think the card is poop? Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. This card is terrible.
Okay.
I should have explained the rarity at the start as well, because if you noticed, it's got like a manga in the background. And this was the first ever manga rare from the core set, so that might have like threw in like a... That might have confused you as well. Like the manga rares are like equivocal to like Starlights from like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff, where they're just like super hard to pull.
Does it matter? Like, does it affect the gameplay?
No, I thought you might have thought that like, well, if it's a manga, then like, you know, if they've made a card on manga, then surely it must be a good card, you know.
Listen, from Yu-Gi-Oh, like we've had like insane artwork on the absolute dog water cards like ever. Like so, that was never gonna bait me. All right, next card.
Cool. So there's different sort of like cards that you can get. There's a character, which I've just showed you there. There's a leader, and then there's like event cards. So I'm trying to like get a good mix of what I can like show you. So the next card is a leader. So this is who you would typically play as like is what the deck would be called, because that's
your
the
deck
leader.
master essentially, and when it dies, it's over.
Yeah, pretty much. So the deck would be tailored around this leader.
Trafalgar Law. I haven't got to this part of the anime yet, but I've heard very good things about him.
He's cool, yeah.
So this is... So you just start the game with this on your field, right?
Yeah, just like a deck master. Or like the leader in Hearthstone.
So it's 5k. It's got 4 life. This has slash as well. So like, what is that? Is this like an attribute type of thing, or? It
doesn't. A lot of the time, it really doesn't matter. There's some characters that can't be damaged by slash or special or something like that, but they're quite niche and they don't really come up at all. So it's not really something to give a shit about, really.
Sure, and it's I guess a red purple card. It's main phase one. Go on.
I was just gonna say, so since it's red purple, it's like dual colors. So that means you can play red and purple cards in the main deck.
Okay, so kind of similar to Magic in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So activate once per turn in your main. It costs -3 Dawn, I assume is what that means, right?
So what that is it's a tricky one. So it doesn't cost 3 Dawn to use this effect. So the purple mechanic is tailored around like putting Dawn back in the Dawn deck. So the Dawn deck, it's where your mana comes from. So you've got like 10 Dawn. And when you go up by 2, it just comes out of the Dawn deck. It's just where your mana lives. So when something says Dawn -3, you're not tapping 3 Dawn. You're putting the 3 Dawn back in the Dawn deck.
Oh, so you're kind of like going back in tempo.
Yeah,
like your ramp.
So it's quite similar to Shaman in Hearthstone, where like, do you know when you get like Overload? Yeah. Like, you're doing like what is perceived to be like a really powerful effect for its Dawn cost. But obviously next turn you'll have 3 less Dawn. So like what's cool is about like the -3 Dawn thing is you don't have to use like active Dawn. You can use tapped Dawn. So like let's say in this scenario, you can like use a bunch of Dawn and then put back the 3 Dawn that you've used. That you've tapped. Okay, that's right, yeah.
But conceptually, that sounds really broken because you're essentially getting free resources in a way, like you're kind of cheating resources. That's kind of how I perceive that. So,
but then next turn naturally
you'll
you
have
have
3
less. Yeah.
So is it only for the next turn, and then does the ramp go back, or do you just go -3 and it has to keep ramping back up?
So for example, let's say you're on 5 Dawn for the turn and you've tapped 5 Dawn, and then you use this effect to put 3 Dawn back. So you've got two Dawn in play then. So then when you go
do you
next
get 7
turn...
on the next turn, or is it just back to 5?
No, you ramp up 2, so you'll go to 4. If that makes sense.
Right, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so
that's the trade.
Because like in Hearthstone, when you overload, you just get back all of that mana anyway.
Yeah.
And +1 of the crystal. But with this, you're literally resetting like yourself.
Yeah, like you're putting Dawn back and like you go behind in Dawn.
So it's very yeah, so I think conceptually that's really strong, but it has to be such a powerful effect to warrant that.
Agreed.
Let's see. So it places up to one of your opponent's characters with 3k or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Okay, so basically you just overload 3 and you just compulse a guy, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
And play up to 1 character card at the cost of 4 or less from your hand. So, playing a character, I assume when you play a character, it has a mana cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Ooh. 3k or less power. Now, it's weird because higher attack means better cards, generally. But in Yu-Gi-Oh!, like, there's plenty of insane monsters that just have no attack, right? So, it's a question of, like, is putting back a guy with 3k or less good in One Piece? Like, is there good cards that have really small attack? I'm going to assume yes, there's very broken effects that are live with little guys who are 1k or 2k or something. So if it's like a problem card, you get to put back a card, you just get to get rid of it, and you get to summon a guy for free from your hand. Well, it's not really free per se, but this seems like a unbelievably huge amount of tempo that you gain from this, like a ridiculous amount. So even though you're going -3 in Dawn, it just seems like you are plussing really hard on the field, and the tempo swing is just massive with this, and it's not even like it's once per turn as well. So I mean, if you put yourself back quite a lot, but I mean, dealing with problem monsters is probably huge. Plus, you're getting guys onto the field. So it's not like you're losing too much from it. I think this is a really, really strong card.
Bear in mind, with each individual like element of this card, so -3, since you only gain 2 Dawn a turn, like you obviously like go quite decently behind.
Yeah,
with the -3, and 3,000 power to put into perspective, like what attack is at all a threat. So like, since this leader
is this like an 1800 beater in Yu-Gi-Oh? Is it like a 2/5 monster?
It's hard
like
to like put that into perspective, because like to deal damage to a leader, so this leader's 5,000. So to deal damage to him, you have to swing with a character that's 5,000. And then you win the battle if there's no counter.
Okay.
So this would spin cards that are 3,000 power or less. So those particular characters wouldn't be able to apply any sort of like, battle pressure to the leader, because if you swing a 3k into a 5k, nothing happens. You have to swing like minimum 5k to deal damage to the leader.
What happens when a 5k hits a 5k?
The attacking 5k wins.
The attacking 5k wins, okay.
Yeah.
Does it stay on the field, or?
So if it's a character versus a character, the 5k being attacked would die. If it's a character versus a leader, like for example, if a 5k attacked Trafalgar Law, you would just
knock a life off.
You would just take one of your 4 lives, yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah. So it puts you back quite significantly, but the trade-off is like, I think you're dealing potentially with really strong effects on the field, and it's not like you're losing a whole lot per se, because you do get to bring out a guy from your hand, which I think could be worth it. So I think this is a good card.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yeah, this card's bonkers.
Okay, that good. All
this is probably one of the best leaders in the game.
Really?
It's conceived, like current format, it's perceived as one of like the best decks, and it's going to get better in the next set. They've recently printed cards in the most recent set there where like you can, the 4 cost that you would summon would have an effect where it would like add an extra Dawn. So the 3 Dawn that you've lost, you would immediately just like get back some of it. And
so yeah, because I mean, if that's like the whole gimmick of like, overloading your mana essentially, then it makes sense for them to have other cards that then ramp that back up again. So
yeah, there's plenty of 4 costs that they have, like Mr. 2, like just ramps up a Dawn when he's played, and a bunch of other cards as well. So it just means that you just end up with like, every time you do this sort of play, as long as you're playing like a card that ramps like every time you do this, you generally stay above like 5 Dawn like a lot of the time,
and you're also just getting cheating guys out, so that's pretty nuts.
The best removal in the game is probably ones that don't KO, because there's a lot of floaters in the game that where if they like KO'd, like they would like trigger an effect. So this putting a card to the bottom of the deck is actually like pretty crazy, because like
it's like not triggering a grave effect. Yeah,
and trash like the graveyard, like you can use it as like a resource, whereas like when something's to the bottom of the deck, there's no search cards in like One Piece really. So like once it's at the bottom of the deck, it's just gone. Like it's like gone forever. And the 3,000 power thing, like that's not an issue. Like you were kind of right that like there can be cards that are like less than 5k that would be problematic, but a lot of the time you just play cards that like reduce attack power. So when a card is problematic, let's say it's like a 9k, you can play cards that can reduce its power to 3k, and then you can spin it.
And then spin. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. So yeah, this card's it's unreasonably good leader. Yeah.
Well, can't wait to see how broken he is in the anime.
He's pretty good, yeah.
All right, next card.
This is another character of a color we haven't seen yet.
Just a character, okay, and it's 9,000 Gecko Moira. Mariah. So on play...
Moria.
Moria.
Yes.
The 7 warlords of the sea... Oh no, is this a warlord? Ah, spoiler. Okay. Choose up to 1 character card with a cost of 4 or less, and up to 1 character card with a cost of 2 or less from your trash. Play 1 card and play the other rested. So playing, I assume, just means like you just summon it back from the grave, and then the other one summons it tapped?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So, but when you summon it back and it just says play a card, so does that mean it doesn't have summoning sickness?
It will have summoning sickness, yeah. All cards have summoning sickness when they're played unless they have rush.
So if it's rested, it just means you can't use the effect?
No, you can use the effect, it's just rested, so it means that, like, you can't attack a character in One Piece unless it's rested. So it means that the card that you would bring back can be attacked. That's all. But like if it had an on-play effect, you could use its effect.
I mean, an 8 mana double reborn seems pretty good. It is 8 mana, which is expensive, but that's the double reborn. Like, it's just a question of, like, how good are the minions that are 4 or less and 2 or less? I mean, I assume there'll be plenty of good minions that have decent effects that are low cost. So what deck is this? Is it black as the color?
Black, yeah.
Okay, and I assume black is very graveyard kind of heavy, right?
Yeah, so black is a lot of characters that deal with, like, trash, KO, and stuff like that.
Does black mill?
It can, yeah. It's cost manipulation, KOing, trashing, and milling. That's what, like, a lot of, like, black decks do.
I think this is broken. It's expensive, but I think bringing back guys that you mill, especially 2 of them, that seems ridiculous. Is this just Lightsworn in One Piece? Is this just tier?
There's a deck that can feel like that, yeah, if you play it a certain way. It's quite fun.
Nah, this has to be good. Like, I'm always like, what's the word? Yeah, like, I'm always swayed by, like, mana cost, because I try and always, you know, temper expectations when it's not Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you can't just play your cards immediately.
Yeah, it's hard to put into perspective, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Like, how long is a One Piece game?
So they do best of 1, but, like, and best of 1s are normally, like, half an hour.
Like, turn count, like, what are we talking?
I'm not sure, like, so, like, you ramp up by, like, 2 every turn, so you get the 10 done in, like, maybe, like, 1, 2, 3, or, like, 5 turns. And then after that, like, I'd be
like
very
5 to 10 turns per game?
It can really depend. Like, the more control decks that are just, like, trading with each other and not wanting to go, like, face can take a while, but, like, I wouldn't say it takes forever.
I mean, I think this is a very good payoff, all things considered. It's really big. It brings back 2 guys. I mean, you are kind of playing your whole turn on this, but I think with the added combination of milling and potential cost reductions, maybe there's ways to ramp this up earlier. So I think this is good. Like, there's no way summoning 2 guys from the grave is bad.
You think Monster Reborn's that good, huh?
It has to be.
Is that your locked in answer?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, this card's ridiculous, yeah. It's probably, I'd say, the best character in the game.
That good?
It's mental, yeah. Like, I think the best decks right now are any black leader because of this card.
Okay.
Like, this card is, like, crazy. You don't ramp or anything in black. Black is, like, quite a control deck where you control the game state and you can, like, KO a bunch of, like, cards and stuff. What this card can do is, typically what you can do is you can summon, like, a 4 cost that KOs and you can summon a 2-cost that reduces cost. And that's important because some of the cards that KO can only KO a certain cost. So this can like not only reduce cost, KO, but also establish a 9k body, which is huge. It's also a good way of generating tempo because there's like little cards. If you're not going to KO, or you just can't for whatever reason, you can summon like a lot of the one and two costs are like your searches. So you would like summon them and then try and get like more card advantage. And then there's like another 4 cost that you can play, which also just generates card advantage, which is also a blocker as well. So you can establish a 9k, establish a blocker, and also establish a way of getting new cards. There's also a new card that came out as well, which lets you do all of those things. You can establish a blocker, you can reduce, and you can also KO. So this card's bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just snowballs, right? Like, you bring back a guy that does a thing, that gets a thing, that does a thing. Yeah, that's... yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, I could argue this card should probably be banned. Because it's like...
How many do you get? Is it 4 copies?
Yeah, you would max out on this for sure. Like, you need to see it. Okay. There's no realistic way. In some black decks, there's no way you can really search it. So you just have to, like... You just have to hard draw it. So, like, you would want to max out on this. Even though, like, playing 4 of an 8 cost doesn't seem logical. Because I don't think you would do that in, like, other, like, high-cost games. But, like, you just need to see this card because it's so good. There's a Gecko Moria leader as well that, like, would mill, and it can add it back from grave. So that's probably the most consistent deck that can, like, see this card more often. But, like, seeing it is very important. Like, there was games where I haven't seen it, and the games got significantly harder because the sort of tempo that this card generates is mental.
Yep, seems busted.
Yeah, he is.
Alright, next card.
So the next card is like an event. So, like a spell card or something.
Like a continuous spell, like a field spell, or...
No, just like a spell, just a regular spell.
Oh, is this a Skypiea card?
Yeah.
So this is Kingdom Come. It's a 6 cost. Main, KO up to one of your opponent's characters, then trash cards on the top of your life cards until you have 1 life card. So, question mark, life cards?
So a life is like, do you know when you looked, so when you saw Trafalgar Law and it had 4 life?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, you played this when you had 4 life. You would trash 3 life until you had 1.
Huh?
Yeah.
So you just pay your life points down to 1 to knock out a character for 6 mana.
Yeah, quite expensive, yeah.
Okay. Trigger. Knock out up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than the total of you and your opponent's life cards. Wait, so what is this a second effect, or what is going on here?
With Trafalgar Law, you had 4 life, correct?
Yeah.
I have Trafalgar Law 5k character leader. I'm getting attacked by a 5k character.
Yeah.
I then decide I don't want to counter it. I want to take the damage. So I then take a card off the top of my life to go from 4 life to 3 life. You then look at the card that you get off life and you either add it to your hand or you can use a trigger effect. So if I see this card off the top of my life, I can then go, so I would like to use this card.
Okay, so whenever you knock out a life in One Piece, you get a card off the top of your deck.
Of life. There's like a separate pile where the life is.
So there's 3 piles of cards in One Piece?
Yeah, so
your main deck, your Dawn, and a life pile?
Yeah. So what
do you put in your life pile? Is it random like Pokemon?
It's the top 4 cards of your deck. So after you've drawn your 5 cards and you don't want to mulligan anymore, and with Trafalgar Law, since it has 4 life, you just put the top 4 cards in the life.
That makes so much more sense. So trigger knockout to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of equal to or less than the total of your and your opponent's life cards. And then, so you can do that after you've knocked something out, and then in your main, knock out up to one of your opponent's... So this is a separate effect, right? So essentially the trigger effect would happen first, like a trap card.
No, so it would exclusively do the trigger effect. So if you get it off life as a trigger, you discard, unless stated otherwise, you discard the card to the graveyard rather than adding it to your hand.
Oh, so the trigger comes when you pull this out of the life pile.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So any card in your main deck can be in your life.
Does every event card have a trigger effect?
No. But, like, the triggers are, like... not every card has a trigger. Yellow, in particular, is centered around, like, manipulating life and trigger cards. Triggers aren't exclusive to yellow. but you can manipulate them more in yellow.
Knocking out characters is very strong. For 6 mana, I get to knock something out. Is there any way to, like, counter like this? Because activate Kingdom Come to, like, try and knock something out.
No, it's dead. There's no, like, chain links with, like, I activate this spell, then I chain this spell, or something like that. Like, if they cast a card to KO something, it just dies.
The 6 mana removal, that essentially puts you down to 1 life card. And occasionally, you can pull it out of your life pile to use the trigger effect.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Gosh. I guess it's just hard to decide how good some kind of removal like that is. I mean, if you look at, like, Gecko Mariah, like, removing that's useless because it's already kind of done its job by the time it hits the field. Yeah, so, I mean, I assume there'll be, like, big boss monsters that, like, apply a debuff to everything and stuff like that, so that will be pretty annoying.
There's definitely minions that are harder to get rid of than others.
I'm really confused about the trigger effect because I just feel like it's random, right? Like, if you're just getting random life cards...
Yeah, that's how yellow works. They can generate tempo through, like, just randomness coming from the life.
Gosh,
that's its theme, and I hate yellow.
Okay, just knock out a character with a cost equal to or less than the total of your opponent's life cards. Okay.
So, for example, if you had 2 life left and your opponent had 4, it would KO at 6 cost.
Yeah, okay. I guess it depends how strong removal like this is. If we're going by Law's effect, then removal's really good, but he's doing so much in the process of removal.
Yeah.
And I think for 6 mana, for, like, 1 knockout, like, maybe that's really good, but it feels really underwhelming. Like it's kind of like, what, your whole, like, turn 4 or 5 is just to KO 1 guy? It seems good, but it feels underwhelming to just, you know, it's like activating a fissure, and that's your turn. like, I don't know. I don't think this is good.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
It's not insane or anything, but it's a good card.
Okay. No, my first loss. So sad.
You were doing all right there. I can understand where you're coming from. Like, 6 cost to KO a character is expensive. But in the deck that you play this in an L, you take life, like, really early a lot of the time because you want to play into the triggers. And you have a lot of cards now that just, like, say, like, that have, like, really powerful effects like this that just, like, reduce your life to 1. So you just don't care about, like, just letting them take your life. And they'll also
But is that good, though? Because, like, you're reducing your life to 1, but you're not really gaining anything from it. You're just trashing them.
Well, an L doesn't... Well, you don't trash them, that's the thing. Like, you activate this when you only have, like, 1 life. Because it's okay to just take the life with an L. Because...
Oh.
An L's effect is, if you take your last life... So you don't die unless they attack you when you have 0 life. So,
right.
An L's effect is, when you take your last life once per turn, you can discard a card and then just add an extra life. So, you go from 0 to 1. So it means that, like, you effectively...
Where does that life card come from? Is it just the top card of your deck?
Top of the deck, yeah. So, like, what's annoying about that is, since there's a lot of trigger effects in your deck, since you're adding more cards onto your life, you just really play into the variance of triggers a lot. And since your deck is just full of triggers, when your opponent, like, attacks you, you'll happily lean into the variance. And and then cards like this that just say, like, you go down to 1 life, it just doesn't matter. And
do you get to see your life pile? Can you, like, choose what to... It's completely random.
Total random, yeah.
This feels very frustrating to play and play against.
It was at first, but, like, the more you play against it, the more you just, like, prepare for it. Like, when you prepare, you don't just swing blind at a leader. Like, you have to, like, contemplate, like, okay, like, what can they get off this trigger? It's like playing around traps. It's just the same as, like, playing around traps. Obviously, like, it's a bit cringer because they don't know what the trap's going to be. But if you played against the yellow decks enough, you can kind of get an idea as to, like, what sort of triggers they would play. So then you would just, like, you can do stuff like, there's a trigger that just plays like a body. Like, if you get it off life, it just plays itself, and it's just like a 5k swinger. And that can be annoying because they can just generate tempo. So what you can do is, if you're playing like a removal deck like black, you can just make your swings first before committing any of your Dawn. And then if they take the life, they then play that card. And then you can use your Dawn more effectively to just remove that, if need be. And if they don't get any triggers, then you just do something else.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Being able to KO any character as well, regardless of its cost, because some KO cards are very cost dependent, where they only kill like 4 or lowers, like Trafalgar Law only does specific attack points. This being able to just KO any character is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I figured like that's good, but it again, like it just felt like you were kind of using your whole turn for that. But I suppose like getting multiple triggers off and potentially hitting this as well is like actually nuts if you just randomly hit this as well.
Yeah, the card's fine. It's played in an L for the most part, and like it's definitely not a completely terrible card. I don't think it's absolutely insane either, but it's definitely something that's played.
All right, last one.
And the last one, here we go. Enjoy this one.
Bet you've given me the longest one in One Piece. No, you haven't. Sogeking! La la la.
Sniper Island far away.
It's a 7-cost, 6k ranged. Treat this card's name as Usopp according to the rules.
For some reason, I don't know why. But...
on play, return up to one character with a cost of 6 or less to the owner's hand, and then draw 2 and trash 2 from your hand. Ooh. But counter 1,000. I don't think I noticed that on the other characters.
Yeah, so some characters can have a counter where that basically can help you protect your characters and leaders when they attack. So, for example, if somebody swung a 5k into a 5k, you can discard this 1k and it won't die, because then it becomes 6,000 power.
What happens to the attacking monster when it hits something bigger?
Nothing. Your character just doesn't die. When you swing,
really?
You have to...
There's no punish for that?
No, there is a punish, because you tap your character, so it means that can be attacked. So you have to be careful with what you attack with, because if you attack with a character, it becomes tapped, so then that means you can attack. It can be attacked. So like things you can do in One Piece is like not swing, so it means that they can't interact with that card other than with events or KO. So if you swing into something, you have to make sure that like it's a decent tempo push, and you're not just swinging for the sake of swinging, because then they can just swing into your cards for free. You have to make sure that you're gaining some sort of card advantage from swinging.
What if my opponent just has a bunch of guys that they haven't attacked with? Is it like, do they all become taunts basically, or can I still attack the leader?
No, you can attack leader. Yeah. You can attack leader whenever you want.
And then they can choose to block with their guys.
If it has block, yeah.
It needs block specifically. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, same kind of theme here, because it seems really insane. It's just this cost that I'm concerned with. Because like just bouncing a 6 mana, which is pretty big, I suppose. You can even bounce your own guys to do some stuff, I assume, right?
Return to one character with a cost of 6 or less. Yeah. To its owner's hand, yeah. So
you can bounce your own guy and then use it again, stuff like that. But I assume you're probably just trying to send your opponent back.
It's removal and a combo enabler from the sound of things, and it plays well on curve as well, because then when they play the 6 Don creature, you go up to 7 Don in your turn, so it plays on curve.
Yeah, and like worst case scenario, it is just a hand trap if you need it to be, so that's pretty decent.
Most cards
really
most cards have counters. So some cards have like 1k or 2k. That's like the general one. Gekko Moria doesn't have a counter because, you know, like, he's good enough.
Well, I'm a little suspicious because it's like, did they give this a counter because they felt like the effect wasn't strong enough, or just because it's the theme of Sogeking being like a ranged kind of guy? I don't know. I think it's good. It's quite expensive, but it's sort of trading off because you're putting your opponent back in terms of their mana as well with the bounce. And then like cycling your deck is always really good regardless. So just getting rid of like 2 dead cards or whatever, and then trying to dig deeper for more pieces is pretty strong. This doesn't feel like, is it? I don't know. I think it's solid. It depends. Like, I don't know. What's like the blue theme?
Blue is a lot of like removal in terms of like bottom decking and drawing cards, I guess. I don't play like blue an awful lot, I must say, but generally like they have ways of like just generating like tempo, and there's decks that are themed around like manipulating the top of your deck. Like there's a leader called Blue Doflamingo, where his effect is like 2 Don, tap 1
Oh, he's
Don.
a warlord. I know him.
Yeah, so like his effect is, look at the top card of your life. He's a leader, so look at the top card of your... Oh, not life, sorry. Look at the top card of your deck, and if it's a Warlord of the Sea, you summon it. There's a lot... Yeah, he's a good leader, yeah.
So you can just like summon your best monsters from your deck when you manipulate your deck. Okay.
Yeah, and there's cards that like rearrange the top of your deck and stuff, and it's decent tempo in that respect, and it's got like some of the best removal as well, like being able to like bounce to hand or put to the bottom of the deck means it doesn't trigger KOs and stuff, and Usopp.
Yeah, I think that's like the coolest thing about this is that it's like removal without like destroying, I guess is the way to describe it in Yu-Gi-Oh terms. Is there really no relevance with the Usopp name?
No.
Okay, I mean that's just obviously there for the theme, I suppose, but mechanically and gameplay wise there's just no benefit or reason.
Like if there's a card that specifically searches Usopp, then I guess that would matter, but currently I can't think of one that would want to search Usopp. You know.
Anyway, it's not like it matters. This isn't Usopp anyway. It is Sogeking.
That's completely true. Yeah, I guess they just added that just to make it much better.
All right. Just for the sake of Sogeking, I think this is a good card. Realistically, like I think the removal of 6 or lower to bounce and then cycling your deck is pretty strong. And it is just a hand trap as well. So I think like it's got enough versatility. I think if it didn't have the counter, I'd say maybe it would be a bit underwhelming. But I think like the versatility of that plus the tempo swing it offers by returning on summon is really, really powerful, I want to say. I think this is a good card.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
This card is terrible.
No! It's so good!
Yeah, it's awful. It's so
Why
bad.
Is it so bad?
It's a 7 cost, 6k attack. That's so terrible. Like it's so bad. Like normally when you pay 7 cost, you at least want it to be like minimum 7,000 power. And there's probably just better cards to summon on 7, and you've got like better removal. And like 6 cost or less isn't like terrible, but like yeah, it's just like it's just better just to like generate tempo in a different way, and like paying like 7 Don for this to remove a 6 cost or low is just like, it's just bad. It's just not very good.
I think I got too excited because I am currently in the peak Sogeking arc that's distracted me.
Well, he is the Sniper King, so lives in a sniper island far, far away.
He lives in our hearts.
I'd be tricked by it too.
Well.
But no, I remember
3 for 5.
I remember pulling this from a booster box and it was worth nothing, and that made me very sad. It's one of the first cards I've ever pulled, and it's poop.
Yeah, so 3 for 5, I guess not incredible, but again, haven't played the game ever, so I'll take the positive number there.
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
First 3 was quite astute, and like 2 of them were like baits. Like the gecko wasn't really a bait; that was like so obviously like mental. But I figured I'd throw that in there to try and make you double guess everything. But like the law having like that really expensive like with no context, like the really expensive like Don cost sounds awful, because this leader used to be awful. But then like it added more like purple cards that just made it mental. And the Shanks, well, you know, he's Shanks, so he should be good, but it's actually terrible.
There's like multiple characters in One Piece of the same cards, right? Multiple cards of the same character, rather.
Yeah, there's multiple different Shanks. There's multiple Monkey D. Luffy's. There's only one Sniper King you'd be happy to know, I think.
He needs a retrain, man.
He really does. He needs like a leader or something, like a Sogeking leader. That'd be great.
All right, well, thanks for doing this for me, Darren. I guess you'll have a Twitter or something maybe that you post on. I can link in the description. So appreciate you having you here.
Yeah, I just have a shop. I don't really post on Twitter, mostly Instagram, but whatever. It's something will be underneath, I guess.
If you want to buy cards, then you can get them from Darren's eBay and card market, which I'll leave below.
You sure can. One Piece 2.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and see you next time.
See ya.